Chalo, let's see this. In the MCQ starting में you have some data points. Let's begin with the question number one. What are the SI base units? What are the SI base units for the moment of a force? बेटा moment of a force का formula क्या होता है? Yes. Starting from the basics, what is the formula for moment of a force? Moment of a force is equals to force into distance. What are the units of force? kg, ms, minus 2. What is distance? Meter. Multiply कर दो. Your answer comes out to be what? kg, meter square, s minus 2. Any answers like that? D is your answer. At any point in the MCQs बेटा कोई भी चीज डिफिकल्ट लगे you just ask me. ठीक है? You just ask me, no need to hesitate. So first MCQ हमारा क्या था? We had to calculate the moment of a force का SI base unit. We had to calculate the SI base unit of the moment of a force. So हमने basic SI base units की equation लगाई. Moment is equals to force into distance. Our answer comes out to be nothing complicated. Chalo, let's further move ahead. Which statement about vector quantities is correct? Acceleration of free fall is a vector quantity because it has a constant magnitude. No. Temperature in degree centigrade is a vector quantity. No. Time is a vector quantity. No. Weight is a vector quantity because it has a direction. D is again the correct option here. Beta weight is a vector quantity. Why? Because it has a direction. Vector quantities की एक खास बात होती है that they have a direction. Simple as that. Let's further move ahead. The density of the material of a rectangular block is determined by measuring the mass and linear dimensions of the block. Perfect. The list shows the result obtained together with their uncertainties. Perfect. The density calculated is to be this. What is the uncertainty in this result? What is the uncertainty in this result of density? So if you remember, the formula of density is what? Mass over volume. The formula of density is what? Mass over volume. Mass comes with a capital and volume is length into width into height. Perfect. Now here, can you see that density is made up of two density is made up of, let's say, four variables. Density is made up of four variables, right? Yeah, density is made up of four variables. Now, what do we do with these four variables? What do we do with these four variables? We take the fractional uncertainties of these four variables. The absolute uncertainty in density divided by density is equals to what? Absolute uncertainty of mass divided by mass plus the absolute uncertainty of length divided by length plus the absolute uncertainty of width divided by width plus the absolute uncertainty of height divided by height. Okay, so do you have the absolute uncertainty of mass? Yes, 0. 0.1. Do you have the actual value of mass? Yes, 25. 0. 0.1 divided by 25. Plus, do you have the absolute uncertainty of length? Yes, 0. 0.01. 0. 0.01. Do you have the actual value of length? Yes, 5. Do you have the absolute uncertainty of width? Yes, 0. 0.01. Do you have the actual value of width? Yes, 2. Plus, do you have the absolute uncertainty of height? 0. 0.01. Do you have the actual value of height? Yes, 1. And what is the actual value of density? 2.5. Multiply it by 2.5 to get the absolute uncertainty in density. Can any genius with a sound enough calculator tell me the answer to this, bhai? Can any genius with a sound enough calculator tell me the answer to this? Ta iska answer kya aega? Any geniuses in the chat? Hmm. क्या आएगा इसका आंसर? What is the uncertainty का answer? I am getting uncertainty का answer as 0.05. What is the reasonable estimate for the volume of one page from this examination paper? Okay. We have to calculate the volume of one page of the examination paper. Okay, how can we do that? How can we do that? बहुत easy है. So let me draw an examination paper. Let me draw an examination paper. ठीक है? Let's say like this. Let's say the examination paper is 6 centimeter tall and you can say 10 centimeter wide, and you can say it has a thickness of 1 millimeter. It has a thickness of 1 millimeter. Can you calculate the volume for it? Yes. 6 centimeter will get converted into millimeters, 60 millimeters, multiplied by 100 millimeters. Perfect. Multiplied by 1. This comes out to be 6 and 3 zeros millimeter square. This is your thickness of one sheet of paper, or the volume of one sheet of paper. C is your answer. C looks like a pretty reasonable answer. Let's wait then move ahead. An object is projected from horizontal ground at a velocity of u and at an angle of theta to the horizontal perfect. So your velocity is u, angle is theta. It hits the ground after time t. Okay. Assume air resistance as negligible perfect. Which statement does not describe the motion of this object? Okay. Which statement does not describe the motion of the object? The horizontal component of the object velocity is constant and has a value of this. Yeah, that's correct. Horizontal component beta क्या होता है projectile motion में? This thing. This is what? U cosine theta. And this horizontal component remains constant as well. So this statement is correct. This cannot be your answer. The horizontal distance traveled is this. Yeah, that's also correct. The time taken for the object to reach the maximum height is this. Yeah, that's also correct. The vertical component of the object's velocity is constant, which is not true. बेटा जब भी प्रोजेक्टाइल मोशन होता है वर्टिकल कंपोनेंट ऑफ द वेलोसिटी ऑलवेज वेरीज. जब भी प्रोजेक्टाइल मोशन होता है बेटा वर्टिकल कंपोनेंट ऑफ वेलोसिटी ऑलवेज वेरीज हमेशा वेरी करती है. इट डजंट रिमेन कांस्टेंट. तो डी इज योर आंसर. ऑल क्लियर. अ पर्सन ट्रैवलिंग ऑन अ मोटरवे, ठीक है, ऑफ टोटल डिस्टेंस 200 किलोमीटर. सही है, 200 किलोमीटर का टोटल डिस्टेंस है. Travels the first 90 kilometer at a speed of 80 kilometers per hour. Which average speed must be maintained for the rest of the journey if the person is to reach the destination in 2 hours? Perfect. तो बेटा जर्नी आपकी कुछ इस तरह से, जर्नी आपकी कुछ इस तरह से 200 किलोमीटर्स की. दिस इज द एंटायर जर्नी ऑफ 200 kilometers. Perfect. You have covered the first 90 kilometers at an average speed of 80. Perfect. The first 90 kilometers, that is these kilometers, have been covered at a speed of what? 80 kilometer per hour. Can you calculate the time here? Can you calculate the time here? Yes, time is equals to distance over speed. 0, 0 cancel out. 9 over 8 hours comes out to be your time. 9 over 8 hours comes out to be your time. बेटा what are your total number of hours? 2 hours. तो रिमेनिंग आवर्स कितने हो जाएंगे बेटा इस जर्नी के लिए? इस जर्नी के लिए द वन आई हैव हाइलाइटेड इन ब्लू, द रिमेनिंग आवर्स विल बी व्हाट? 2 minus 9 over 8. Okay, this comes out to be what? 16 minus 9, that is equals to what? 7 over 8 hours. Perfect. The distance is what? What is the remaining distance? Remaining distance is 110 kilometer. Time is this. Can you calculate the speed? Yes. Speed is equals to what? Distance over time. Distance is 110. Time is 7 over 8. Can we calculate this answer? Yes, very, very easy. 110 into 8 divided by 7. This gives you an answer of what? 125. This gives you an answer of 125 or 126 kilometer per hour. Sorry, D is your answer. D is your answer for this. Nothing complicated here. Let's further move ahead भाई. आगे बढ़ते हैं और let's go ahead. A car has a mass of 1200 kg and a momentum of this. What is the kinetic energy of the car? So I have always told you, beta AS level physics में I have always told you. अच्छा, let me keep this working on the top side. ठीक है, यहाँ पे रख देता हूँ कहीं. अ, इधर रख दे. चलो, let's keep it here. So that we have space for the working of question number 7. So you have a mass of what? You have a mass of 1200 kg. Momentum is this. You have to calculate the kinetic energy of the car. But I have always told you guys to remember kinetic energy का second formula for AS physics. That is kinetic energy is equals to momentum square divided by 2m. However, let's say you are very naive students and you have forgotten this formula. But let's say किसी ने ये formula भूल गया. तो kinetic energy is equals to what? Kinetic energy is equals to 1 upon 2 m v square. What is mass? 1200. Perfect. How will you calculate the velocity? Velocity is momentum over mass. This is your momentum divided by mass. So momentum is 18,000 divided by mass taken whole square. What does your value of kinetic energy comes out to be? Yep. If you calculate it, kinetic energy की value comes out to be 135 into 10 raised to the power of 3 joules. That is equals to 135 kilojoules. Let's further move ahead. A ladder is positioned on an icy frictionless ground. So there will be no friction on the ground, perfect. And is leaned against a rough wall. So there will be friction on the wall, perfect. At the instant of release, it begins to slide, perfect. Which diagram shows the direction of the forces P, W, and R acting on the ladder as it slides? First of all, I will cancel out option C and D. Why? I will cancel out option C and D because in these options, the reaction force on the frictionless surface is not marked correctly. बेटा अगर आपका फ्रिक्शनलेस सरफेस होगा तो रिएक्शन फोर्स बिल्कुल अपराइट होगी इस तरह बिल्कुल अपराइट. This is not the case in C and D. I have cancelled that out. Either A can be your option or B can be your option. Now, weight is acting downward perfect for A and B. The only difference between A and B is that A में आपकी P की फोर्स इस तरह है और B में आपकी P की फोर्स इस तरह है. Now you have to visualize. थोड़ा सा गौर करेंगे. Your ladder begins to slide. That means it is moving downward. Okay. That means this rough wall will be exerting an upward force of friction like this. And there will be a reaction force like this. The resultant of these two forces will give rise to a slanted force of P. Simple as that. B is your answer. Now, each and every one of you tell me, are these three questions clear? 6, 7, 8 clear है भाई? कोई मसला है यहाँ पे? Yes. Let's see this. Perfect. अल्हम्दुलिल्लाह यार, चलो. बहुत खुशी होती है जब क्लियर हो जाता है तुम लोग. A toy parachute is dropped from a bridge and falls vertically through air. Okay, so air resistance is present. The graph shows the distance traveled by the parachute against time. Perfect. Which region of the graph shows when the parachute is at terminal velocity? So when, okay, first of all, always remember that gradient of distance time graph is equals to your velocity. Gradient of distance time graph is equals to velocity. If your velocity is terminal, or you can say if your velocity is constant, that means your gradient will also be constant. And where can you find a constant gradient in this graph? This line. This line B is your constant gradient, hence B is the terminal velocity. Let's further move ahead. A lift elevator consists of a passenger car supported by a cable that runs over a tight frictionless pulley to a counterbalance. Perfect, perfect. भाई आगे बढ़ते हैं. The counterbalance falls as a passenger car rises. Perfect. तो counterbalance नीचे जा रहा है, passenger car ऊपर जा रही है. Perfect. Some masses are shown in the table. Passenger car is this, counterbalance is this, passenger is this. What is the magnitude of acceleration of the car when just one passenger and the pulley is free to rotate? Very very easy बेटा, पुली क्वेश्चन है ये बेसिक टिपिकल पुली क्वेश्चन है, इससे इजी पुली क्वेश्चंस हो नहीं सकते. ओके, सो द काउंटर बैलेंस इज ऑफ 640 kg. बेटा काउंटर बैलेंस का मास क्या है? 640 kg. तो इसका वेट निकाल सकते हो आप काउंटर बैलेंस का? यस सर, बिल्कुल निकाल सकते हैं. Weight of this counterbalance will be what? 640 into 9.81. This comes out to be what? 640 into 9.81. This comes out to be 6,278. This comes out to be 6,278 Newton. Perfect. Counterbalance downward move कर रहा है बेटा. And passenger car upward move कर रही है. Perfect. Can you calculate the weight of the passenger car and the passenger? The total mass of the passenger car and the passenger is what? 600. The weight will be equal to what? 600 into 9.81. This comes out to be what? 600 into 9.81. This comes out to be 5886 Newton. ठीक है. पैसेंजर कार और पैसेंजर का वेट भी मार्क कर दिया, काउंटर बैलेंस का वेट भी मार्क कर दिया. परफेक्ट. नाउ देर आर सम मोर फोर्सेस दैट आर लेफ्ट. बेटा सिंस ये एक स्ट्रिंग है, यहाँ पे आपके पास टेंशन्स भी होंगी. टेंशन ऑलवेज एक्ट्स अवे फ्रॉम द ऑब्जेक्ट. टेंशन ऑलवेज एक्ट्स अवे फ्रॉम द ऑब्जेक्ट. परफेक्ट. तो आपकी टेंशन फोर्स एक्ट कर रही है अवे फ्रॉम द ऑब्जेक्ट, एज यू कैन सी हियर. Perfect. Now, let's first of all consider this passenger car. बेटा सबसे पहले इस पैसेंजर कार को कंसिडर करते हैं. लेट्स कंसिडर दिस पैसेंजर कार. ओके, so this passenger car is moving upwards. That means tension minus weight, that is 5886, will be equal to your resultant force. Okay, tension minus 5886 is equals to the mass of the passenger car and the passenger, that is 600, into the acceleration beta. Can you make tension the subject? Yes, tension is equals to 600A plus 5886. This is your first equation. This is your first equation. Simple as that. Now let's apply this on the counterbalance. In the counterbalance, we have an upward force of tension, downward force of weight. But this time, the counterbalance is moving downward. So the downward force will be greater. So you will write 6278 minus tension is equals to the mass of the counterbalance, that is 640, into A. Let's bring 640 to the other side. 6278 minus 640A is equals to your tension. This comes out to be your second equation. This comes out to be your second equation. You have equation 1, you have equation 2. Can you solve them simultaneously? Yes. 6278 minus 640A is equals to what? 600A plus 5886. Let's bring this negative 640A towards the right hand side. Perfect. And let's take this 5886 towards the left hand side. Perfect. What will happen? 6278 minus 5886 is equals to 600A plus 640A. Okay. 6278 minus 5886 divided by 1240. Your acceleration comes out to be what? Acceleration is 0.316. That is 0.32 ms minus 2. Any answers like that? B is your answer. Yes. हाँ बेटा, इस पेज पे सारे क्वेश्चंस क्लियर है. क्वेश्चन 9 एंड 10 क्लियर है. यस. चलो आगे बढ़ते हैं भाई. अगर कोई ऐसी चीज हो जो ना समझ आए, जस्ट आस्क फॉरन से, ठीक है, सो दैट वी कैन डिस्कस इट. A stationary ball of mass m is hit by a bat. Perfect. So stationary ball, initial velocity will be 0, mass is m, is hit by a bat. The ball leaves the bat with a velocity of v. Perfect. The bat is in the contact with the ball for a short period of time, change in t. What is the average force? Very, very easy. Force is equals to what? Change in momentum over change in time. How can you calculate change in momentum? Mass into change in velocity over change in time. Initially, your velocity was at rest. Now your velocity is at v. Mass into v divided by change in time. B is your answer again. क्वेश्चन 12 पे आ जाओ भाई. क्या लिखा हुआ है? A disk of mass m is moving across a horizontal frictionless surface with a constant velocity u. Perfect. It collides with a stationary disk of mass 4m. Perfect. The diagram shows the view from above of the motion of the two disks before and after the oscillation. Perfect. What is the initial velocity u of the disk of the mass m? Okay. So you have to calculate the initial velocity u here. How can you do that? Very, very, very easy. First of all, right off the bat, just by looking at this question, you know this is what? Principle of conservation in Principle of conservation of momentum in two dimensions. Beta, this question is related to which concept? Principle of conservation of momentum in two dimensions. First of all, we can apply principle of conservation of momentum in vertical direction. In vertical direction. Now, if you apply principle of conservation of momentum in the vertical direction, before collision, there are no velocities in the vertical direction. So, momentum before collision in the vertical direction will be 0. Perfect. Can you calculate the momentum after collision in the vertical direction? Can you calculate the momentum after collision in the vertical direction? Yes. Mass m multiplied by this velocity ka vector, that is what? 4 sine 45. Okay. Multiplied by 4 sine 45. Okay, what is this mass? 4m. And what will this velocity be equal to? This will be a downward velocity that will be equal to what? V sine 45. But beta, please remember velocities are a vector quantity. If you are taking upward velocities as positive, the downward velocities will be negative. So the momentum after will become what? M into 4 sine 45 minus 4m into V sine 45. Why did I place a negative sign here? Because the velocity is going downward. Why did I place a negative sign here? Because velocity is going downward. Simple as that. Let's further move ahead. अच्छा, अब क्या करेंगे भाई? Now, what will we do here? We will just equate the momentum before collision to the momentum after collision. ठीक है. Momentum before collision is 0. Momentum after collision is m into 4 sine 45 and negative 4m v into sine of 45. Let's take this entire thing. Let's take this entire thing towards the left hand side. Let's take this entire thing to the left hand side. 4mv sine 45 is equals to 4m sine of 45. 4m sine of 45, 4m sine of 45 gets cancelled out. Your velocity v comes out to be 1 ms minus 1. बेटा आपकी वेलोसिटी v क्या आ गई? 1 ms minus 1. बट आपने वेलोसिटी v थोड़ी निकालनी थी यहाँ पे. You have to calculate the velocity u. How will you do that? Now you will consider principle of conservation of momentum in horizontal direction. Now you will consider principle of conservation of momentum in horizontal direction. What is the momentum in the horizontal direction before collision? Yes, only m into u. Only m into u. Why? Because this 4m mass has a stationary value. This is at a velocity of 0. What will be the momentum after collision? Yes, what will be the momentum after collision? Mass of m multiplied by the horizontal velocity, that is 4 cosine 45. So mass of m multiplied by the velocity 4 cosine 45 plus the mass of 4m into the velocity of what? V was what? 1. 1 cosine 45. This horizontal vector of V. What will be the horizontal vector of V? 1 cosine 45. Okay. So now again what will we do? Momentum before collision is equals to momentum after collision. Mu is equals to Mu is equals to what? Mu is equals to 4m cosine 45 plus 4m cosine 45. M and M get cancelled out. Here M gets cancelled out. U is equals to what? 4 cosine 45 plus 4 cosine 45. Can anyone calculate the answer, bhai? Can anyone calculate the answer? 4 cosine 45 into 2. This comes out to be 5.65. D is your answer. Is this डिफिकल्ट क्वेश्चन क्लियर टू यू बेटा डिफिकल्ट तो नहीं है मैं कहूंगा लेंदी क्वेश्चन है यस इज दिस लेंदी क्वेश्चन क्लियर टू ऑल ऑफ यू और इसका कोई शॉर्टकट वे नहीं है मसला ये इसका कोई शॉर्टकट वे नहीं है चलो लेट्स फर्दर मूव अहेड लेट्स मूव ऑन टू क्वेश्चन नंबर 13 भाई अच्छा कुछ सवाल जो है आपसे 10 सेकंड में सॉल्व हो जाएंगे कुछ जो है वो 1.5 मिनट तक ले सकते हैं तो देर इज नो नीड टू पैनिक इन द एग्जाम An object is dropped from rest on the earth from a height of 2 meters perfect. The same object is dropped from rest on the moon from twice the height perfect. The acceleration of free fall on the moon is approximately 16% of the value on the earth perfect. Assume that there are no resistive forces acting on the object. The speed of the object just before hitting the surface on the earth and the speed of the object just before hitting the surface on the moon. Perfect. First of all, what you will do? You will calculate for earth. First of all, let's calculate for earth. Let's say at earth you are at a height of 2 meters. Perfect. Let's say you are at a height of 2 meters. Your initial velocity is 0. Your acceleration is g. Perfect. Can you calculate the final velocity? Yes. You can calculate the final velocity. V square is equals to u square plus 2as. This entire thing becomes 0. Why? Because initial velocity is 0. V is equals to what? 2 into g into 2 under root. Velocity at the earth surface comes out to be what? Under root 4g. Now let's do the same thing for moon. Let's do the same thing for moon. For moon, you have a height of what? You have a double height. I think you have a double height, right? For moon, you have twice the height. Yeah. So let's say this is 4 meters. And for moon, your acceleration is what? 16% of the acceleration on the earth. So this will become 0.16 g. Your initial velocity is 0. Can you calculate the velocity at the moon surface? Yes. Velocity square is equals to u square plus 2as. This becomes 0. Velocity square is equals to 2 into 0.16 g into the distance, that is 4. Can we calculate the velocity by 2 into 0.16 into 4? This comes out to be 1.28 under root. 1.28 g under root is your answer. Yeah. Now you have both the velocities. You have the velocity at the earth as well. You have the velocity at the moon as well. क्या करेंगे बेटा? You will just divide them up. Divide them up. At the earth you have a velocity of under root 4g. At the moon you have a velocity of 1.28g. G gets cancelled out. What will be your final answer? Under root 4 over 1.28. Let's calculate this answer. 4 divided by 1.28. What does this answer come out to be? 1.8. A is your answer. Any ambiguity is here. A comes out to be your answer. Nothing more, nothing less. Very good, very good. शाबाश यार, खुद आंसर भी बता रहे हो अब. That's good. Let's see this. The graph shows the velocity varies with time for a bungee jumper. ठीक है, ये velocity time graph है for a bungee jumper. Perfect. At which point is the bungee jumper momentarily at rest, and at which point does she have zero acceleration? Beta, zero acceleration. Where will the zero acceleration be? The zero acceleration will be at a point where the gradient of velocity time graph becomes horizontal or zero. The gradient of velocity time graph is equals to acceleration. At point Q, the gradient is equals to a horizontal line. And the horizontal line has a gradient of 0. At this point, acceleration becomes momentarily 0. So we have only one option like that. C is your answer. Now, can you realize that this question was very easy to solve और time consuming भी नहीं था? तो कुछ क्वेश्चन बहुत टाइम कंज्यूमिंग होंगे, कुछ क्वेश्चन टाइम कंज्यूमिंग नहीं होंगे. A solid sphere which is less dense than water, perfect, is held completely immersed in water a few meters below the surface. The density of water is uniform. The density of water is uniform. Perfect. The sphere is released, and immediately after the release, the sphere rises. Perfect. Which row describes the changes in the magnitude of the upthrust on the sphere and the resultant force on the sphere as it rises? Perfect. Beta, upthrust always remains constant. Upthrust always remains constant. अपथरस की वैल्यू हमेशा कांस्टेंट रहेगी. सो ऑप्शन सी एंड डी विल गेट कैंसल्ड आउट. ऑप्शन सी and D will get cancelled out. And as the sphere is moving upward, beta, as the sphere is moving upward, its velocity will increase. As its velocity increases, drag force क्या करेगी? Drag force increases. As the drag force increases, what will happen? A resultant force will decrease. A is your answer. Simple as that, nothing complicated भाई. कोई सवाल है? A uniform bar of 200 Newton and length 4 meters is freely hinged on a wall at one end. Perfect. The bar is horizontal and is held in equilibrium. What does the word of equilibrium mean? The word of equilibrium means that resultant force will be equal to 0 and resultant moment will also be equal to 0. By a cable attached at a distance of 0.5 meters from the other end. Perfect. The cable is at an angle of 35 degree to the horizontal. Perfect. What is the tension T in the cable? You have to calculate tension T in the cable. First of all, you need to realize that this is a uniform bar. This is a uniform bar. Can you see the word of uniform? Can you see this word of uniform? What does this word of uniform means? This uniform ka word means that weight will act exactly in the middle. Weight of 200 Newton will act exactly in the middle. Okay. If the weight is acting exactly in the middle, what will this distance be? This distance will be 4 divided by 2, that is 2 meters. And this distance will also be 2 meters. Perfect. Now, you have a tension force here as well. You can divide this tension force into two components. One will be acting vertically, that is T sine 30, and one will be acting horizontally like this, T cosine 35. This angle is 35, not 30, my bad. Okay. Now let's calculate moments about this pivot P. Let's calculate moment about this pivot P. If you can realize this force of T cos 35 is passing through the pivot, hence the moment due to this force will be 0. Hence the moment due to this force will be 0. The 200 Newton force will generate a anti-clockwise moment that will be equal to what? 200 into 2 meters. That is 400. This T sine 35 will generate what? This will generate an anti-clockwise moment. Or you can say this will generate a clockwise moment. ये clockwise moment बेटा किसके equal होगा? The force that is T sine 35 multiplied by this distance. Multiplied by this, एक second. Let me remove this. हाँ, one second. Let me remove this highlighting. Oh, the force that is T sine 35 multiplied by this blue distance. Multiplied by this blue distance. अब बेटा ये blue distance क्या होगा? The entire rod is of 4 meters. This a small little distance is 0.5 meters. So this blue distance will be what? 4 minus 0.5. What does your answer come out to be? What does your clockwise movements come out to be? Beta clockwise movements come out to be T sine 35 multiplied by 3.5. बेटा मोमेंट वाले आपके सवाल में आपको हमेशा पिवट से डिस्टेंस लेना होता है। राइट साइड या लेफ्ट साइड कोई भी चीज़ नहीं होती, हमेशा आप पिवट से डिस्टेंस लेते हो बेटा। देखो यहाँ पे पिवट क्या था? पिवट ये पॉइंट हमने बनाया था पी, हमने यहाँ से डिस्टेंस मेजर करना था। ठीक है, चलो। नाउ क्लॉकवाइज मोमेंट्स ये आ गए, एंटी क्लॉकवाइज ये आ गए। सिंस वी नो द ऑब्जेक्ट इज इन इक्विलिब्रियम, since we know the object is in equilibrium, then anti-clockwise moment will be equal to clockwise moment. Anti-clockwise is equals to 400. What are clockwise? 3.5 t sine of 35. 400 divided by 3.5 sine of 35 is equals to your tension. Can you calculate the value of tension by 400 divided by 3.5 into sine 35? This comes out to be what? This comes out to be 119, that is 200 newtons. 16, the answer is C. Simple as that. Let's further move ahead. The diagram shows all show a pair of equal force acting on a meter rule. Which diagram shows a force that produces a couple and zero resultant force? Okay. So which diagram actually shows a couple? Okay. So for a couple, two forces must be acting in opposite directions. And there should be a perpendicular distance between them. And the two forces should be equal to each other as well. So D cannot be my answer. C cannot be my answer because there is no perpendicular distance between them. B looks like a perfect answer. Why? Because one force is acting upward, one is downward, both are equal, and there is a perpendicular distance D between them. This is a couple. B is your answer. Let's further move ahead. A ball of mass m is thrown up to a height of h in the air with an initial velocity v as shown. Air resistance is negligible. If air resistance is negligible, that means what? Acceleration is 9.81 ms minus 2. Perfect. Acceleration of free fall is g. Perfect. What is the total work done by the gravitational force on the ball during its flight from P to Q? Okay, what is the total work done by the gravitational force? Now, what is your gravitational force? Your gravitational force is basically the weight that acts downwards, which is equals to mg. What is the vertical distance traveled from P to Q? If you analyze, both P and Q are at the same height. So the vertical distance traveled between P and Q is 0. Multiply both of them. The total work done comes out to be 0. A is your answer. Do you get this? Work done is equals to what? Work done is equals to force into distance traveled. Force is mg. The distance, the vertical distance, beta vertical distance between P and Q is what? 0. Multiplied by 0. Your total work done comes out to be 0. All clear? Yes or no? Okay, student, let's see this question. A spring of a spring constant 30 Newton meter minus 1 is suspended vertically from the top. The spring obeys Hooke's law. Initially, the spring is not compressed and not stretched. A mass of 0.5 kg is attached to the bottom of the spring. The mass is released from rest and falls. Okay. Okay, so what can you say is, let's say you have a spring like this and a mass is attached to it, and initially spring is neither compressed nor stretched. When you release this mass, this causes it to fall downward. When you release this mass, the mass falls downward. Perfect. The amount by which the mass falls downward is the extension of the spring. Why? Because initially the spring was neither compressed nor stretched. So, what can you say here? You can say the loss in gravitational potential energy of the mass is equals to the gain in elastic potential energy of the spring. What will be the loss in gravitational potential energy of the mass? 0.5, that is the mass, into g, that is 9.8, into the height. What is the height? X, perfect, is equals to 1 over 2 into k, that is 30, into x square. Why x square? It is the extension square. X and x gets cancelled out. This is 1, this is 15, perfect. What will your x come out to be? Let me calculate it. X will come out to be 0.5 into 9.81 divided by 15. This gives you a value of 0.372. X or your extension will come out to be 0.5 into 9.81 divided by 15. X is equals to 0.327. This is equals to 0.33 meters. D is your answer. Ah. A wire has length L and cross-sectional area A. A tensile force F is applied to the wire, which causes it to have extension of X perfect. The wire obeys Hooke's law. What is an expression for the Young's modulus of the material from which the wire is made? By Young's modulus का क्या expression हो सकता है? Stress divided by strain is your Young's modulus. So this cannot be your option. This also cannot be your option. B is your option. Why? Because Young's modulus is what? Stress over strain. Now you can replace stress by what? Force over area into strain. We have an option like that. That is your option B. Simple as that. Nothing complicated here. C कैसे होगा बेटा? C में देखो एक गड़बड़ है. Extension ऊपर लिखा हुआ है, length नीचे लिखी हुई है. Young's modulus is equals to what? Young's modulus is equals to FL over AE. So this cannot be your option. C cannot be your option. A wire is stretched gradually by increasing force. The force extension graph for the wire is shown perfect. Which statement must be correct? Okay, which statement for this force versus extension graph is correct? Yep, which statement for this force versus extension graph is correct? Any ideas? Point Q is the elastic limit. We cannot tell that. Point R is the limit of proportionality. No. The area under the graph from P to S is the elastic potential energy stored in the wire. See, this is wrong. Beta, option C wrong क्यों है? Why is option C wrong? The area under the graph from P to S is not entirely elastic potential energy. बेटा, it is completely possible कि कुछ हिस्सा is plastic potential energy and कुछ हिस्सा is elastic potential energy. So this is not entirely elastic potential energy. Let's read out option D. The area under the graph from P to S is work done in stretching the spring. Yes, D is the correct answer. Area under the graph from P to S, that is this entire area, is the work done in stretching the spring. Yeah, that's correct. D is your answer. Let's move ahead. A spring has an unstretched length of 0.3 meter. A spring constant of this. An object is suspended from the spring and the spring is deformed within its limit of proportionality. The new length of the spring is this. Perfect. What is the elastic potential energy stored in the spring? You have to calculate the elastic potential energy. So, do you remember any formulas for elastic potential energy? Elastic potential energy is equals to 1 upon 2 k e square, where e is the extension. Now you know that the total length is zero point 0.5, the unstretched length is zero point 0.3. Can you calculate the extension? Total length minus the unstretched length. Zero point 0.5 minus zero point 0.3 is equals to zero point 0.2. What does your elastic potential energy comes out to be? 1 upon 2 into k, that is 400, into extension ka square, that is zero point 0.2 square. What does your answer come out to be? 200 into zero point 0.2 ka square. This comes out to be 8 joules. A is your answer. The answer to 22 is A. Let's further move ahead. Okay, this is something that I have done a lot of times in past papers and classes. Let's see this. A wire consists of a 3 meter length of metal X joined to a 1 meter length of metal Y. Perfect. The cross sectional area of the wire is uniform. Perfect. So this also has the area of A. This also has the area of A. Perfect. A load is hung from the wire which causes metal X to extend by 1.5 millimeter. The extension here is 1.5 millimeter. ठीक है. And metal Y to extend by 1 millimeter. The extension here is 1 millimeter. Perfect. The same load is then hung from a second wire of the same cross section area consisting of 1 meter length of X and 3 meter of Y. बेटा अब हमने एक सेकंड वायर बनाया है जहां पे वी हैव where we have X as what? Where we have X as 1 meter and Y as what? Y as 3 meters and Y as 3 meters. Perfect. Both wires exhibit their limit of proportionality. What is the total extension of the second wire? You have to calculate the total extension of the second wire if the same load but different lengths of the wire are being applied. Now, what will you do here? Yeah. What will you do here? Any ideas? First of all, what can we do here? But we know that here this X has a length of 3 meter, area of A, extension of this, and let's say the load is of force F. Can you calculate the Young's modulus of X? Can you calculate the Young's modulus of X? Yes, you can do that. The Young's modulus of X will be equal to what? FL, that is 3, over A into extension, that is 1.5. Perfect. So you can write it like this, 3F 1.5A. Okay. And if you want to do one more thing, you can say that this is in millimeters. So let's write it like this. Let's write it like this, 1.5 into 10 raised to the power of minus 3. So 1.5 into 10 raised to the power of minus 3a is your Young's modulus of X. Okay. Let's calculate the Young's modulus of Y. Let's calculate the Young's modulus of Y. The Young's modulus of Y is what? F into length, that is 1, area A into 1 into 10 raised to the power of minus 3. Perfect. Now, you have the Young's modulus for both of them. Can you calculate the extension of x and y if these are the lengths? Yes. Extension of x is equal to what? FL over A, capital E. What is the force being applied here? F. What is the length? 1. What is the area? A. What is the Young's modulus of x? 3F over 1.5 into 10 raised to the power of minus 3 into area. Area cancel out. F cancel out. Let's take this to the top side. Extension of x comes out to be what? 0.5 into 10 raised to the power of minus 3. That is equals to what? That is equals to 0.5 millimeter. Let's do the same for the extension of y. Beta, let's do the same for the extension of y. Now I have very little space here. I hope I can do it. Extension of y is equals to FL over A E Y. Your force is what? F. Your length is 3. Your area is A. Your Young's modulus of y is what? F over area into 1 into 10 is the power of minus 3. Area cancel out. F cancel out. Let's take this to the top side. This will come out to be what? Yes, beta, this will come out to be what? This will be the extension of y becomes 3 into 10 raised to the power of minus 3. That is 3 millimeters. So total add kar do. Your answer will be B. That is 3.5 millimeters. 23 ka answer is B. Now, this is a hard way to do things. All this is a hard way to do things. ये सब मैंने आपको दिखाया so that you know कि there is always a hard way to do things. However, for this question, there is an easy way as well. If you just apply a little brain. बेटा अगर थोड़ा सा दिमाग लगाओ तो you have an easy way out for this question as well. चलो मुझे थोड़ा सा इसको नीट एंड क्लीन करने दो. Yeah. There is a very easy way out for this question. Now, what is that easy way out? Let me tell you. I am putting all the working for method number 1 here. Method number 1 की working हम यहाँ रख देते हैं. This is the hard method. कहाँ गई extension? Uh-huh. Yeah, let's put it here. The extension of y is this. Perfect. So this is the hard method. Let me write it here as well. Method 1. But obviously this involves less amount of IQ. But if you are sharp, बेटा अगर आप थोड़े से intelligent हो, if you are a little intelligent, आप थोड़ा सा यहाँ पे गौर करोगे. You know, Young's modulus is equals to FL over AE. Now, beta, please realize what I am about to do. Please focus on the board what I am about to do. Now, do you realize that the Young's modulus of the materials remain unchanged? So Young's modulus is constant. The force on both the materials remain unchanged. The area of both the materials remain unchanged. So E, F and A are constants. What will happen? Extension will become directly proportional to length. Now, sir, how does this help us? How does this help us? If a 3 meter length, if a 3 meter length of X is expanding by 1.5 millimeter, एक 1 मीटर लेंथ ऑफ एक्स कितना एक्सपैंड करेगी बेटा 0.5 मिलीमीटर सिंपल रेशियो मेथड. नाउ सिमिलरली डू फॉर वाई. वाई की अगर 1 मीटर लेंथ is extending by 1 millimeter. 3 meters will expand by 3 millimeter. Total extension will be 3 millimeter plus 0.5 millimeter, that is 3.5 millimeter. बेटा इजी मेथड समझ आया? खैर है, चलो यार, अल्हम्दुलिल्लाह, अल्लाह का शुक्र है भाई। ये बड़ा अच्छा सवाल था। चलो लेट्स सी दिस। The graph shows the variation of displacement with distance for a progressive wave at one instant in time. The period of the wave is 91 milliseconds. What can be determined from the wave? Acha, what can be determined from the wave? What can be determined from the wave? It has a velocity of this, hmm, and a frequency of this. See, you can calculate the frequency actually. You can calculate the frequency. How? Frequency is equals to 1 over time period. 1 over 91 into 10 raised to the power of minus 3. Let's calculate this. 1 divided by 91 into 10 raised to the power of minus 3. This comes out to be, yeah, frequency is 11 hertz. And can you calculate the wavelength here? Yes. Wavelength is what? This. This. 4 centimeter. The distance from one crest to another crest is your wavelength. This is 4 centimeter. That is your wavelength. Perfect. So wavelength is 4 centimeter. Can you calculate the velocity? Yes. Velocity is equals to f lambda. Frequency is 11. Lambda will be what? 0.04. 11 into 0.04. Your answer comes out to be 0.44. A is your correct answer. Your velocity is 0.44 and your frequency is 11 hertz. Let's further move ahead. Which group of electromagnetic waves is arranged in the order of shortest wavelength to longest wavelength? Longest wavelength is of what? Microwaves. Then infrared, then X. No, 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 no. 25 ka answer D is, yeah, correct. Let's see this question. A wave has a frequency of 5 gigahertz. What is the period of the wave? Okay, so if your frequency is 5 into 10 raised to the power of 9 hertz, how will you calculate the time period? Time period is 1 over frequency. It is equals to 1 over 5 into 10 raised to the power of 9. This comes out to be what? 2 into 10 raised to the power of minus 10 seconds. Simple as that. Your decimal place is at this point. Now, if you see there is no matching answer like that, what can you do? You can take this decimal point one place, two place forward. This becomes 200. And if you move the decimal place to the forward direction, your standard form में 10 की power decreases by that amount. It becomes 10 की power minus 10 minus 2. This equals to what? 200 into 10 raised to the power of minus 12 seconds. And as we all know, 10 power minus 12 is what? Pico. This will come out to be what? 200 pico seconds. A is your answer. Simple as that. Let's further move ahead. Three statements about two progressive waves are listed. The waves have the same frequency, the wave have the same amplitude, the waves are emitted with a constant phase difference. Which statements must be true for the two waves to be coherent? Yes, बेटा कौन से दो statements true होने चाहिए for the two waves to be coherent? One is that they must have a constant phase difference. Three is a must statement. They must have a constant phase difference. Secondly, they must have the same frequency, say is the answer. Let's further move ahead. Waves P and Q have the same amplitude. The waves meet in phase at point X and interfere to give a resultant intensity Y. The amplitude of P is doubled. Perfect. Amplitude of P is doubled. What is the new intensity of the resultant wave at X in terms of I? Chalo, let's see this. Now, wave P and Q have the same amplitude. The waves meet in phase at point X and interfere to give a resultant intensity at A. So let's say initially the amplitude of P is A, the amplitude of Q is A. They both meet to give an amplitude of 2A and the intensity is I. But now the amplitude of P is doubled. The amplitude of P is doubled. So what will happen? P will now have an amplitude of 2A. Q has an amplitude of A. The total amplitude will become what? 3A. So what has happened? What has happened beta? Amplitude 1.5 से increase कर गया. Amplitude has increased by an amount of 1.5. What will your intensity increase by? 1.5 का square I. 1.5. This comes out to be 2.25. That is 2.3 I. Why does your intensity increases by the square factor? See, आपका amplitude क्या हुआ है? 2A से 3A चले गया. That is 1.5 times. Your intensity will increase by what? 1.5 times the square. Why? Because intensity is directly proportional to amplitude ka square. Because intensity is directly proportional to amplitude ka square. Let's further move ahead. Radio waves can be polarized, but sound waves cannot be polarized. Which statement gives the reason for this? Now we know sound waves are longitudinal waves, radio waves are transverse waves. The radio waves are generally of a higher frequency than sound waves. No. Radio waves are transverse, but sound waves are longitudinal. Yes, B can be your answer. B is your answer. B can be your answer. Any ambiguities up till now, भाई? इस पेज में कोई ambiguities? मुइज रुबीसा बेटा कोई ambiguities इस पेज में? परफेक्ट है, आगे बढ़े. चलो लेट्स मूव अहेड भाई. Let's move ahead. Light of wavelength lambda is incident normally on a diffraction grating with a total number of lines n in width w. A second order maxima is observed at an angle of diffraction theta. What is n? Okay, you have to calculate n. N is what? Total number of lines in width w. Okay. So do you remember this formula? Do you remember this formula? D sine theta is equals to n lambda. Now, if you have n number of lines in a length of w, okay. So if you have n number of lines in a length of w, how many lines will you have in 1 meter? How many lines will you have in 1 meter? Let's put a x here. X is equals to what? X is equals to n over w. Number of lines in 1 meter is what? N over w. Okay. If n number of lines are present in w width, how many number of lines will there be in 1 meter? N divided by w. What is d? What is d? D is 1 over the number of lines in 1 meter. D is what? 1 over the number of lines in 1 meter. तो बेटा D आप निकाल सकते हो यहाँ पे. D is equals to 1 over N over W. D is equals to what? W over capital N. Let's write it here. D की जगह what? W over capital N. Sine theta. N is what? Small n is what? 2. Why? Because this is a second order maxima. This is your lambda. Can you make capital N the subject? Yes. Capital N is equals to W sine theta, एक second, W sine theta divided by 2 lambda. Any options like that? C is your answer. Let's further move ahead. Let's see question number 31 by 31 question देखते हैं. If you see question 31, what is written? Kirchhoff's second law is a consequence of a basic principle. Yeah. Which principle is that? Kirchhoff's second law किस चीज का principle है बेटा? The sum of potential difference in an electric circuit is equals to the The Kirchhoff's second law is based on what? Kirchhoff's second law is based on energy in an electric circuit is conserved. Kirchhoff's second law is based on what? Law of conservation of energy. Simple as that. Let's move on to question 32. The diagram shows a circuit with a light dependent resistor. The ammeter reads zero current. Okay. Currently, ammeter reads zero current. What is the resistance of the LDR? Beta, whenever we have a null point, always remember, whenever we have a null point, the ratio of this resistance divided by this resistance is equals to the ratio of this resistance divided by this resistance. What do I mean by that? The ratio of resistance A over B is equals to the ratio of resistance C over D. What is A? 10 kilo ohms. What is B? 30 kilo ohms. What is C? 6 kilo ohms. What is D? Can we calculate that? Yes, 1, 3. D is equals to 6 into 3, that is 18 kilo ohms as your answer. B is your answer to 32. Simple as that. Let's further move ahead. A torch uses three lamps connected in parallel and is powered by a cell of electromotive force 3 volts and negligible internal resistance. Each lamp dissipates this amount of power. What is the current in the cell? Wow, what a beautiful question. Let's say you have a battery like this. This is of 3 volts. And let's say you have some lamps like this. This is the first lamp, this is the second lamp, this is the third lamp. And let's say each of them is producing a power of 0.6 volts. The voltage is 3. 3 volts, power of 0.6 volts. Can you calculate the current? Can you calculate the current? Yes, power is equals to IV. Power is 0.6 voltage divided by 3. Your current comes out to be what? Zero point 0.6 divided by 3. Your current is 0.2 ampere. Your current is 0.2 ampere. Now you have to realize that each branch, बेटा हर branch में 0.2 ampere है. यहाँ पे भी 0.2 ampere, here 0.2 ampere, here 0.2 ampere. The total current will be 0.6 ampere. The total current will be 0.6 ampere. Let's see this. A cell with internal resistance is connected to a light dependent resistor, okay, a fixed resistor and a voltmeter as shown perfect. The voltmeter reading increases, okay, so the reading on the voltmeter increases, perfect. Which quantity decreases as the voltmeter reading increases? The charge moving through the cell per unit time? No. The energy transfer to the fixed resistor per unit charge? No. The intensity of the light on the LDR decreases as voltage increases? No. The terminal potential difference across the cell decreases as the voltmeter reading increases? Yes, D can be your option. Why? Because if you analyze how can the voltage across the voltmeter increase? How can the voltage across the voltmeter increase? Now, the voltage across the voltmeter can increase if the LDR resistance, what? LDR resistance decreases. LDR resistance, if the resistance of the LDR decreases, what will happen? The resistance of the total circuit will decrease. As the resistance of the total circuit decreases, the current in the total circuit increases. If the current in the total circuit increases, the voltage across this internal resistance, or you can say loss volts, increases. As loss volts increase, what will happen? The terminal potential difference will decrease and the reading of the voltmeter will increase. Obviously, the reading of the voltmeter increases. Why? Because when the resistance of the LDR decreases, the voltage across the LDR will reduce and the remaining voltage will be supplied to the fixed resistor. Hence, the voltmeter reading increases. D is your answer. Simple. So let's see this. The circuit contains a cell with negligible internal resistance. Perfect. The energy transferred per unit charge in driving the charge across the complete circuit is E. Perfect. So the EMF is E. Okay. The potential difference across the resistor X is V. Perfect. The cell is then replaced with a different cell of the same electromotive force that has a significant internal resistance. Perfect. Now the cell is replaced with a different cell of the same electromotive force. Okay. Same electromotive force. That means E will remain same. A and B option gets cancelled out. ऑप्शन ए एंड बी बेटा कैंसिल आउट हो जाएंगे, ठीक है. बट दिस टाइम यू हैव सम सिग्निफिकेंट इंटरनल रेजिस्टेंस. यहाँ पे इंटरनल रेजिस्टेंस है, ठीक है. इफ यू हैव इंटरनल रेजिस्टेंस व्हाट हैपेंस? The total resistance, have I started the recording? The total resistance of the circuit increases. Perfect. As the total resistance of the circuit increases, the current will decrease. ठीक है. करंट डिक्रीज होगा तो बेटा द वोल्टेज अक्रॉस दिस resistor X, the voltage across this resistor X will decrease. Simple as that. C is your answer. Let's further move ahead. एक सेकंड भाई. नहीं नहीं, डी क्यों होगा भाई? वोल्टेज डिक्रीज होगा ना अक्रॉस दिस रेजिस्टर. वोल्टेज अक्रॉस दिस रेजिस्टर विल डिक्रीज because the current decreases. Simple. Let's further move ahead. In the circuit shown, the batteries are identical and all have negligible internal resistance. भाई सारी batteries identical हैं और all have negligible internal resistance. All of the resistors have the same resistance. The diodes have zero resistance when conducting and infinite resistance when not conducting. Perfect. In which circuit is the current in the battery greatest? Okay. So you have to find the greatest current. That means your resistance should be the smallest. Okay. Right off the bat, B will not be my answer because यहाँ पे resistors क्या हैं in series. Perfect. D will also not be my answer. Why? Because one diode is reverse biased. C will also not be my answer. Why? Because one diode is reverse biased. If you see option A में the two resistors are in parallel. Resistance reduces. And both the diodes are in forward bias condition. तो आपकी resistance due to the diode will be zero. A is your answer. Current greatest. Let's further move ahead. Okay, let's see this. A potentiometer circuit is used to determine the electromotive force E of a cell. The circuit includes a second cell of EMF 1.5 volts and internal resistance 0.5 ohms that is connected to a uniform resistance wire XY as shown. The resistance wire XY has a length of 0.96 meter, perfect, and has a resistance of 0.5 ohm. The movable connection Z is moved along the wire XY. Perfect. The galvanometer reading is 0 when the length is 0.64 meters. Beta galvanometer ki reading is what? 0 when your length is 0.64 meters. That means when the length is 0.64 meters, the voltage here is equals to the EMF. The voltage in the wire is equals to the EMF. What is the value of the EMF? Okay. So first of all, first and foremost, can you calculate the voltage across this entire resistance wire? Can you calculate the voltage across this entire resistance wire? Yes. The total resistance is what? 0.5 plus 0.5, that is 1. बेटा इस सर्किट की पूरी रेजिस्टेंस, ओके लेट मी डू वन थिंग. इस सर्किट की पूरी रेजिस्टेंस इज व्हाट? The entire resistance of the circuit is what? 0.5 ohm plus 0.5 ohm, that is 1 ohm. I have placed 1 in the denominator. What is the resistance of the wire? 0.5 ohms multiplied by the voltage, that is 1.5. So this wire will be getting how many volts beta? वायर के पास कितना वोल्टेज आ रहा होगा? How much voltage will this entire wire be getting? 0.75. ओके. अब पूरा वायर कितनी लेंथ का है बेटा? 0.96 मीटर. पूरा वायर is of 0.96 meter. You have to only calculate the voltage in the 0.64 meter की length. So 0.96 meter का wire is carrying 0.75 volts. How much voltage will be in a wire of 0.64 ki length? Place an x here. Cross multiply. X comes out to what? 0.64 into 0.75 divided by 0.96. What does your value of voltage come out to be? Easy peasy, 0.64 into 0.75 divided by 0.96. This gives you a value of 0.5 volts. 0.5 volts A is your answer. बेटा ये बात समझ आई? Yes or no? A ठीक है, perfect. Let's further move ahead. Which particle is not a fundamental particle? Which particle is not a fundamental particle? बेटा हमेशा याद रखो कि आपके न्यूट्रॉन्स और प्रोटॉन्स, न्यूट्रॉन्स slash protons are not fundamental particles. D is your answer. Simple as that. Let's further move ahead. The isotope fluorine 189 undergoes beta positive decay to form a stable isotope. Always remember whenever you have a beta positive decay, आपका क्या होता है? Proton number decreases by 1. How many neutrons are there in the nucleus of the stable isotope? Perfect. So the fluorine isotope undergoes beta positive decay to form a stable isotope. Perfect. So what will happen if you undergo a beta positive decay? बेटा बीटा नेगेटिव डिके की बात नहीं हो रही, बीटा पॉजिटिव डिके की बात हो रही है. इन अ बीटा पॉजिटिव डिके योर मास नंबर रिमेन सेम, proton number decreases by 1. How many neutrons are present? 18 minus 8, that is equals to 10. D is your answer. The answer to 39 is D. Let's further move ahead. Which statement is correct? A baron is a hadron and consists of two quarks. No. An electron is a fundamental particle and is a lepton. C is correct. Electron is a fundamental particle and it is a lepton.